Hello friends! I would like to take a moment to talk about the concept of healing from our childhood wounds. This is a topic that keeps coming up for me, personally, as well as just people in my life, people I come across in conversation. It's truly some of the most important work I think any of us can do, healing from our childhood wounds. And I've felt this urge to talk about this because I've had some experiences lately that just break my heart, because it's so evident how much our experiences really do control us as we get older. About 5 or 6 years ago, I was walking around my backyard where I used to live, where I grew up, and I had this just piercing thought that our childhood is what determines our entire life. It is quite literally the foundation for what we end up becoming as adults, and how we act and how we think and how we feel about ourselves often. And it takes a lot of deep deconditioning to break free from old patterns, old thoughts, and old memories. Something that is really important to remember when we think about our childhood, I think, is that the people in our lives, whoever they were, no matter what their age, no matter what their position and role in our life, they too were being controlled by their own traumas, as well as, many things. I feel deeply that we are a conglomerate of our experiences. And I've said this for a long time, and I'll probably say it until my last breath, because I do feel that our experiences are extremely important. I mean, that's what life is about, the experience. And if we aren't aware of how these experiences end up shaping us, morphing us, creating us as we go along, and then in turn how we create the universe, express onto the universe, project our pain onto the universe, if we're not aware of that, we end up hurting a lot of people, including ourselves. So I think it's of the utmost importance that we take a good, hard, honest look at our own pain. And I've found that people who don't look at their pain quite often end up hurting others in the same ways they've been hurt. Usually not even recognizing they were hurt from that. I was once talking to an older friend about his experiences growing up as like a teenager, and just having this kind of rage within him where he would beat people up. And I asked him flat out, I said, "Were you abused by your parents?" He said, Yeah, I was hit as a child. I said, "Do you think that maybe the reason you had all that anger and rage is because of that abuse? Do you think that maybe you thought or grew to learn that that was okay or the way to handle it because that's what was done to you?" And this man was so shocked that I said this, because it came through clearly for him at that moment that, yeah, that's probably exactly what happened. But he had never thought about it until now, until that moment I brought it to his attention. So I think it's really important I bring it to your attention too, in case it hasn't been something you were aware of yet. If we don't deal with our stuff deals with us, and then we deal it upon the universe. And though we can't be responsible for how people have hurt us, We are responsible for our own healing. And though those who have hurt us might not ever hold themselves accountable, we are still responsible for our own healing. Sad as that may be, we have to face it. I think it's important to keep in mind in this process of healing that our family members, those in our lives who have hurt us, the concept of us all being a conglomerate of our experiences is rudimentary. Because say that you were physically abused as a child, right? And maybe you were. It's easy to look at those people and say, how terrible are you? How dare you? How dare you? And you might hate that person or those people. And you have every right to feel as you do. The last thing anyone needs to do is invalidate your feelings. But I also think it's important that we do understand that the reason that those people did what they did was because they didn't unpack their own trauma. And instead of healing their wounds, they projected them out. Or, a lot of the time, what it comes down to, I think, is not having the experiences to know there's a better way. Not having the knowledge to know, can I deal with this in a healthier way? Or to know that the way it's being dealt with isn't going to produce the kind of result the person thinks it will. Or they haven't thought of every angle there is to think about when they are harming someone, and seeing the short-term and long-term consequences of it. How we carry these emotional burdens with us our whole lives, and then how they shape us, how they create our addictive needs. Why are so many of us addicted to substances? Why are so many of us addicted to mutilating our bodies? Why are so many of us addicted to just forms of what seem to be pleasure, but also pain? Why are we so addicted? Why are we so addicted to hurting others? I think it's really important we heal our wounds, because if we don't heal our wounds, we just keep making more and more and more and more for the universe to have to deal with. Is that what we want? We all cry we want a peaceful world, we want a happy world, we want a joyous world. But we don't want to heal our wounds, and we want to go on hurting the world. So it doesn't really make sense. Things don't really add up when we think of it that way. And yet that's what's often occurring. I know there are many people who are doing that inner work, who are healing their wounds, who are breaking patterns and cycles, who are seeing through all of this. And good, I'm glad. But there need to be more. There need to be more people willing to look within and look at their pain and know that the people who inflicted it, though they have hurt them, they were hurt too. And it's that fundamental realization that because that person was so deeply hurt, or because their experiences shaped them in such a way to think that was how to handle it, it doesn't really matter if they didn't want to hurt someone, or if they didn't mean to do what they did it. But they did it because of their own experiences, because of their own conglomerate of experiences for which they have to live with. And it doesn't make it excusable. It doesn't make it okay that someone has abused you. It doesn't necessarily even make forgiveness any easier. But to have a firmer understanding of this helps us to heal ourselves so that we don't have to go on perpetuating it all. So it starts and ends with us. We can't help how people abuse us growing up. A lot of us might think we deserved it. A lot of us might think we asked for it. But we didn't. It was no one's fault, except the person doing it, for how you were abused. And also, when you think of why someone might have been trying to discipline you and whatnot, I mean, go back to day one of being a baby, and how did that person show up and interact? In every single moment of your life, how do these people who impact us show up and interact with us? And is it really then our fault if we turn out to be 11 years old one day and aren't so well behaved? It's all of our experiences from day one that shape us. And as children, as innocent bystanders of the universe, as innocent and malleable and vulnerable children of the universe, it's never our fault that in those states of innocence we had to take on what we took on and deal with it as we had the ability to. It's when you become an adult and you get some sovereignty to you, some responsibility, accountability, ownership of your emotions and your pain, that you can then really do that deeper dive into it. But as a child, you're just taking it all on. And it's not your fault that anyone in your life who's coming across your path is shaping you to be this hurt person in the future who will then hurt others. It's twisted because it's not really anyone's fault. It's not anyone's fault that adults were children too. That adults were once innocent and abused as well, and they just grew up not knowing how to heal and then just repeating the cycles over and over. It's not anyone's fault that we move from innocence to accountability. And then in that space of accountability, so many times we can't take ownership because we're just so hurt already. Because it's painful to look at the pain too. But if we don't look at the pain, we continue to produce it. So which do you choose? Which do you choose?